Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time for our weekly journey we call Living Hope, a show designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real-life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And today we've got somebody who's dedicated her career to dealing with this and is going to update us on the latest in survivability, right, Roberta? I think that's where we're going.
That's where we're going. We're thrilled today to have Dr. Diane Simeone with us, a leader in the field of pancreatic cancer research. She also serves as the director of the Moore Cancer Center at UC San Diego Health. Dr. Simeone founded PRECEDE, the Pancreatic Cancer Early Detection Consortium, and that's actually what we're going to talk about today and find out the highlights and challenges and advances in combating one of the toughest cancers, pancreatic cancer.
And we got to get the doctor to say her name because I don't think you're saying it right. Huh?
You always pick on me on my pronunciation.
How do we pronounce your name?
Did I not say it correctly? I'm sorry.
Simeone.
Simeone.
Simeone, and it's really a pleasure to be on the podcast today. It's always important to let patients and families out there know what they need to know, what's new around pancreatic cancer. Here we're going to be focusing on early detection and empower patients and families to be their own advocates.
It's really important because unfortunately most of the time, by the time it's found, it's usually because it's advanced so much, and so we need early detection. But can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to this passion for pancreatic cancer patients and families?
Sure. So it's nice to be here. I'm new to the West Coast. I just started as the director of the Moore Cancer Center at UC San Diego Health on April 1st. This is an amazing community to be in, to advance our ability to help patients with cancer with new scientific discoveries. My personal journey started at University of Michigan, where I trained as a surgeon and scientist and began doing research on pancreatic cancer, and that dated back to the mid-1990s. And over the years, I've done a lot of work on pancreatic cancer. I've operated on many patients with pancreatic tumors, but important for everybody to know that's listening is that's actually the minority of patients with pancreatic cancer that are eligible for surgical resection, only about 15%. Because most of the time pancreatic cancers are found too late for us to have effective therapies. At least half of patients, when they come in the doctor for the first time with a new diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, it's already spread to other sites. And so I would say we as a research community have not made the advances needed to pick this cancer up early. And in fact, Roberta and I were talking, when I started research, the 5-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer was 4%, all comers. Now it's inched up to 13%, but we all know that number is way too low. And what we're going to talk about today is a whole new strategy to go after early detection, which I think can be transformational for the field. And it's a consortium and study we built called the PRECEDE study, and it's spelled PRECEDE.
Can you tell us more about it and what the goals and the main goals are for PRECEDE?
Yeah, so I think we've learned some important things over the years. That being, there is a heritable component to pancreatic cancer. It wasn't previously appreciated. So we now know that at least 15% of patients with pancreatic cancer have something that runs in their families that puts them at risk. And for some patients, it's other, multiple people in the family with pancreatic cancer. That would suggest a genetic cause. We also know that people that carry certain mutations, like BRCA mutations, for example, may be at increase for pancreatic cancer. And so if we want to have an effective tool for early detection of pancreatic cancer, what we have set up is a study in which we're following 10,000 people who are at elevated risk of pancreatic cancer. And while they're on the study, we're doing comprehensive genetic testing, imaging, collection of blood, so that we know, unfortunately, of this 10,000 person study, about 1,200 patients are going to get pancreatic cancer while they're in the study. And the case we're going to make is while someone's in screening, we're going to have a very, very high chance of picking up that cancer early. And to give that example, last year, when I was still in New York, I operated on 6 people that were identified in our screening program to have a new pancreas cancer that was picked up while they were in screening. And I resected 6 stage 1 pancreas cancers. If you look at the outcomes with stage 1 pancreas cancer, the cure rate can be as high as over 80%. So you can see if we can figure out who's at risk out there, better define that risk. And by having this study or platform, we can not only use the technologies we have in hand today for early detection, but that allows us to push the needle and develop more sophisticated technologies and screen more broadly once we pick up that risk. So what we are building is a national and now international effort for individuals at elevated risk to join this study, so we can all work together to understand how to pick up this disease early.
I think Paul has a question.
Yeah, I'm just curious. You went to the University of Michigan, as did I.
Yeah, I saw your hat with the block M on it.
Go
my friend.
blue. There we go. Finally, we're national champions after 100 million years here. My question is this: beyond genetics, have we
Yeah.
discovered any other indicators, any other patterns to this disease? Are there more people in the Midwest or the West or the South? Is it by ethnic groups? Is it by have anything to do with lifestyle patterns? You know, people who smoke more or eat poorly or anything. Are there any other indicators of that you might be at risk for pancreatic cancer?
So that's an excellent question. And we know some of the risk factors for pancreas cancer. And I'll tell you what they are. We know that smoking increases your risk of pancreas cancer. That if you're obese, your risk is increased. If you have diabetes, your risk is increased. If you have chronic pancreatitis. But for all of those things, the increased risk is at most twofold. And so while these are contributing factors, they're not defining factors. What I have observed over the last several decades taking care of patients with pancreas cancer is about half of people who walk in the door with a new pancreas cancer, I can't put my finger on what that risk factor is. So as we have tried to unravel what the risks are, we now know and that some of it is due to genetics. So now it is standard, it should be standard of care in the United States. It's certainly in our guidelines that all patients with pancreas cancer should have germline testing, where they get a sample of blood drawn and we see if they carry a gene that put them at risk for pancreas cancer. I suspect that there's crosstalk between some of these genetic changes and some of these environmental risks, if you will, that probably amplify patients' risk for pancreas cancer in ways that we don't know. And by us studying this in this large scale study that we're talking about, pre-seed, where we're tracking people's smoking history, medications, history of pancreatitis, their weight, their history of diabetes, and we're looking at their germline genetics, that we're going to start to really be able to measure risk for the first time in a meaningful way.
And is there any higher risk in different ethnic groups? I think Roberta's talked about that a couple of times.
Yeah,
African Americans or others.
A lot of people don't actually know that if someone carries a BRCA mutation, we know that increases your risk of breast and ovarian cancer and even prostate cancer, but that can also increase your risk of pancreatic cancer. So we do know that BRCA mutations can have a higher prevalence in certain populations, like the Ashkenazi Jewish population. But what we have learned by worldwide studies, it is not limited to that population. In fact, having a BRCA mutation is prevalent worldwide. So we don't presume we know who carries these mutations, but once we know we do germline testing, then we can have a better understanding of risk.
And
Also,
my
point
last
out-
question that I'm allowed today here is,
yeah.
Roberta's always asking offline. She survived 20 plus years. She's clearly an outlier, as you say. And she keeps saying, well, can't they look at me and say, what have I got that everybody else hasn't got? Why is there an indicator that you're more likely to survive, not just likely to contract?
Yeah, so I think you raise a very interesting point. There are not that many people like Roberta. I probably know most of the people like Roberta around the country that are long-term survivors. There have been some studies that suggest that the host, right, the person, may have unique exposures in the past, that they may have a different immune response, may more effectively eradicate a cell in the pancreas that's thinking about turning bad. But we really don't have enough information on that yet. But I hope as we have more long-term survivors accrue, then we're going to understand the personal characteristics of people who are long-term survivors. But the big difference we know is if we can pick up a pancreatic cancer when it's a centimeter or less, we're going to cure a lot of people. And I always say if we can land on Mars, we should be able to pick up a 1 centimeter cancer. We just have not devoted the resources necessary to do it. We have not brought the right people to the table to solve this problem.
Can you answer why that is? Do you know why that is?
Well, I would say as a society, we haven't invested very well in early detection. What I have seen so far is a lot of individual centers doing very small scale studies without sharing of data and attacking this kind of like a Manhattan Project. With pre-seed, what we have set up is a very simple concept, which is a center can't join unless they agree to share data and samples. So if we want to really tackle this problem, which I think we can all agree has really been a recalcitrant problem to date, right? Even with all the modern technology we have in place, 13% survival rate, we have to scale up. We have to make an investment. It's just like when we got hit with COVID worldwide, right? Everybody kind of put down their institutional flags, and it was a mandate for everybody to work together to solve a problem as quickly as possible. And I don't think that kind of mentality has come at solving this problem yet, but we're putting that in place with pre-seed. And what I'm finding is many, many centers around the country want to join because they realize we can't solve this problem of early detection of pancreas cancer 1 center at a time. And very interestingly, we're having centers worldwide join because there are countries around the world that have a lot of pancreas cancer and they have no idea why. And by leading the charge and, for example, showing that all patients with pancreas cancer should have germline testing, that we should standardize how we do imaging for patients. We're really developing a learning community worldwide. If we want to change survival, and our goal is to get to a 50% survival in 10 years, we just have to do it in a very different way.
How do you find the patients and the families for Proceed?
The patients find us. I've never in my life seen a more compelling effort where patients come out of the woodwork to join. We don't have a marketing budget yet. I wish we would, but I would tell you, we started this in the middle of COVID. First patient in the very first center, May 2020. And now we have 55 active centers enrolling worldwide. We're enrolling about 180 patients a month. And as word gets out, more centers join. We have centers that are all throughout the country. We have a center in Iceland, a center in Norway, several centers in South America. People get it. They know that if we tackle it this way, it's going to work. I just want to let people out there who are out there that are interested in this. There is a website. It's www.precede, spelled PRECEDE.org, and there may be a center near you. Importantly, it's not only for people that carry a mutation that put them at risk or patients who have a strong family history of pancreas cancer. But a lot of people out there don't know if you have a single first-degree relative with pancreas cancer, it is now in the national guidelines that you should have genetic testing. And most people don't know that. So when I go and give a talk to a crowd of 500 people, usually there's about 25 people lined up after my talk and say, where do I go get my testing? This information has not really been broadly disseminated out to the community.
Well, you say that they find you. How they come to you out of the woodwork? How are they finding you? How are they learning about you? I'm sorry, it's just.
Well, we that work in universities give talks. I was on the chair of the scientific and medical advisory board for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. I'm on the board for Let's Win. I have previously been on the board for the Lusgarn Foundation. People who have a lot of pancreas cancer in their family and are worried about it, there are networks, people, look online for places to go. And one thing I will say is by organizing pre-seed, for any center to join, they have to have an organized effort around early detection. So what I have found around the country is even household name medical centers didn't have an organized effort or a clinic around the early detection of pancreas cancer. And now, because centers want to join pre-seed, we're elevating the standard of care for people all across the country and now across the world for how testing and screening is done, and trying to put have places around the map where patients can access them.
So, what are some successes and obstacles that you face?
I mean, I think the successes are an example I just gave you. Patients who are in screening where we pick up a very small pancreas cancer and we can cure them. We want to repeat that story over and over and over again. The obstacles are getting institutions to agree to share data, kind of shifting this mentality in academia of individual reward to group effort and accomplishment. It hasn't been so hard of a sell to all of our peers worldwide because everybody's sitting in their institution and can't solve this problem by themselves. You need enough numbers to solve it. And that's why people are attracted to pre-seed, both the physicians and also researchers, because now you have larger numbers of patients and samples and imaging to do meaningful research. And it also helps bring in industry partners who are trying to develop new technologies for the early detection of pancreas cancer. So it's created a whole new ecosystem to tackle this disease.
Yeah, I'd like to invite you back sometime, but it looks like we're getting short on time. But before we do go, what are some major steps for Proceed in the coming years that you see?
So now that we're growing worldwide, our goal is to broaden what is established as standard of care. We hope to create the data that screening saves lives for pancreas cancer. There's still a lot of nihilism around that, but we know that if patients are in a screening program, that is the time we're going to pick up a very small pancreas cancer. We need to broaden our education. We see some places where there are hotspots of pancreas cancer worldwide where we don't know why. Really understanding, deeply studying people at risk and understanding what contributes to risk. We haven't talked about, but there are a lot of families out there that have 2 or more family members with pancreas cancer. And we know that some of those families will find a mutation with current testing that identifies the causative gene. But in 85% of families that have familial pancreas cancer, we don't know the causative gene yet. So now we're doing a study with pre-seed for people with pancreas cancer that have it run in their families to do what we call long read sequencing, where it's a brand new technology that allows us to look very long reads of the DNA. And we fully expect we're going to find new genetic causes of pancreas cancer that haven't been identified previously with this new technology. Whoever's on this call, if you have familial pancreas cancer and you don't know the gene that causes your cancer, we're going to be doing a large-scale study on this, so please feel free to reach out to us. And the best way to do that is to join the pre-seed study at a site near you. If you go to the pre-seed website, again, www.preseedstudy.org, it has the map of all the centers across the United States and worldwide that are participating sites. And everything is standardized across all these sites.
We'll make sure to include that. Paul, did you have a question, or we're good?
No, I was just going to say again, let's give out the website. I know she's got a hard stop here in
Yeah.
a moment, so.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm not sure, but I actually lost 4 family members to pancreatic cancer, 3 before my diagnosis and then my mom after. And I thought for a long time I was the only person that lost both parents, but actually found out there are a number of us out there that losing both parents. So again, anybody interested, again, reach out to the studies. And Dr. Simeone, thank you very much for being here. And I really would like to have you come back when we have more time, because I feel we were rushed, and I think this is something really important that we really need to dedicate more time to. But I do want to thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. And to your point, Roberta, we actually have a group of patients we're following that have had their mother and father pass from pancreas cancer, and we don't have any measured understanding of risk for those individuals. So that is a group of patients we're studying long term. And we got to get you in pre-seed study and do long reads so we can figure out what is the gene causing pancreas cancer in your family. Yeah. It is a new day for us to do that. And I'd love to come back and we can talk about this in more detail. This is a very important message for people out in the community that have had any pancreas cancer in their family.
Definitely, and we'll have you come back, and I'll get in touch with your associate, and she can set something up that when you have the time. I don't want to be rushed, but as we leave, as long as you speak my name, I shall live forever is dedicated to Dave Drummond. Dave passed away after battling pancreatic cancer for 3.5 years and is greatly missed. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, just a small sample of what we do every week here on Living Hope. A weekly journey designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real-life stories of those really affected and the people who are really working at the front lines day and night to find a cure or a better solution. If you'd like to share any of your stories, please contact us, and we gave out some resources. We'll give them again if you need help right away. Organizations like letswinpc.org or the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. For the OC Talk Radio Network, I'm Paul Roberts, thanking you for joining us, hoping you'll share this information, and most of all, share the journey we call Living Hope. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.